The Indian and Chinese armies are engaged in an intense face-off, which has been described as the most volatile situation India has seen since the Kargil war got over. Joining us for perspective on the thinking within the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party is the BJP's top foreign policy expert, a man who understands China and Nepal very well, Party General Secretary Ram Madhav. Ram Madhav ji, welcome to India today. I want to start by asking you to describe as you best understand the current situation along the line of actual control. We've heard so many differing accounts here in the Indian press. We've heard from the Global Times in China, each painting a completely different picture. So why don't you begin this conversation by explaining how many points off the line of control are currently seeing a face-off between the Indian and the Chinese armies? How do you see the situation on the border right now?
Firstly, one very important caution, Rahul. You yourself come from a military family. In matters like this, we always must depend on the official sources only. Why I am saying this, I think you can very easily appreciate why I am saying this as a caution, because there were reports in sections of media about things which are not true. In a situation like this, we should all desist from it. Having said it, coming to your question, as has already been stated by official sources, we have had certain flashpoints, certain incidents in 3 places in Ladakh area and 1 in North Sikkim. But they all have right now been taken care of. The official level engagement has happened. So situation is almost normal at this juncture. We only hope that we would be able to maintain this peaceful situation along the borders for coming months.
You're suggesting that the situation is normal. Satellite images got released by a geospatial OSINT expert from Australia, and we've got those images on our screen right now, suggest a build-up along the Pangong Se area in Ladakh, where you've got Indian deployments, you've got Chinese deployments, which are captured on satellite imagery, which throws up a picture which is very different from you suggesting that the situation has been resolved, Ram Madhavji.
This is true that the Australian think tank has put out certain satellite images suggesting the build-up on, especially on the Chinese side. But also some build-up on the other side. They have put out certain satellite images. Remember, we are like in Daulat Beg Oldi, DBO area, etc. We are undertaking certain regular army construction activity. We are building some roads, etc. So our presence is there in terms of that. There are reports about increased activity on the other side. Those issues are being taken care of by our security establishment, our military or army establishment.
In years gone by, the Chinese army has constructed massive infrastructure projects and has roadheads coming very close to the line of actual control. At that time, governments in India were not active, and we lagged in infrastructure development along the line of actual control. Now, belatedly, Ram Madhavji, we are trying to catch up. The problem, though, seems to be that each of the infrastructure projects that we are building, as they come close to the disputed areas, the Chinese army is zooming in and trying to prevent us from pushing ahead with those infrastructure projects. This has happened now. It can happen again in the future. How do you hope to deal with this larger issue? You've got big border development plans, and the Chinese army seems to want to contest those.
Look, there is one qualitative shift in our dealings on the borders that has manifested very prominently at the time of the Doklam standoff in 2017. That is, when such standoffs happen, Indo-China border has a long history of such standoffs. But the qualitative shift that I'm talking about is that when such standoffs happen, we obviously engage in proactive diplomacy. We would like to resolve them through diplomatic channels, but we will have strong ground posturing as well. Our ground posturing will remain, which is legitimate. That legitimate posturing will remain while we try to resolve issues through diplomatic channels. I think that is the kind of qualitative change that you probably have noticed, and probably the other side has also noticed. I think through that process right now, we are trying to address all these important challenges that we face from time to time. Having said it, both sides are mature. I'm sure the mature leadership on both sides will ensure that this does not escalate into any full-blown thing.
You have deep ties in the Communist Party in China. Very often you've been to China, you've had members of the Communist Party coming and meeting you and your think tank. I want to understand from you, what's your sense of the thinking in the Communist Party leadership in China? This is when their annual conclave is taking place. It's a big show of strength for Xi Jinping. We're seeing multiple points being opened, friction with the United States over COVID and trade, friction in Hong Kong over pushing through a new act, and also friction in India. How do you assess the thinking in the Chinese leadership, Ram Madhav?
One way of assessing it or gauging it is by closely watching the official positions that they take. If you recall the press conference that the Chinese Foreign Minister Mr. Wang Yi held yesterday, it was more than a 90-minute long press conference. In that, majority of the time was taken to address the conflict zones that you are talking about. America-China, Sino-American relations, Hong Kong, Taiwan, all these issues. It shows that certainly the Chinese leadership is at least seriously concerned about these issues. I don't want to use just the phrase seized of these issues. They seem to be seriously concerned about the issues, and overall the tone of the foreign ministry, even contrary to my own expectations, because I had done a piece in which I believed that there would be much more strong nationalist rhetoric, but the tone of the foreign minister was largely conciliatory. He went to the extent of saying that China has no ambition to compete with America. In so many terms he has said it. So it seems that China somehow feels that it is right now besieged of too many problems, but they have to probably handle these things carefully. I think that is the right way to look at it, for China at least. See, it's today facing a major challenge of trust. There is a huge question of credibility about the way the COVID crisis has been handled by the Chinese leadership. The Chinese leadership must address that challenge of lack of credibility in the world.
But the fact, Ram Madhavji, is that the dragon speaks with a forked tongue. On the one side, you've got the foreign ministers say they have no intentions of competing with the United States. On the other side, various Chinese diplomats have been threatening Australia, saying we will not eat your beef, we will not drink your wine. If you ask for independent probes, you see the manner in which their wolf warriors have been trying to stir the pot and put countries in Europe, put countries in Africa, put countries in Asia under pressure. Are you seeing the emergence of a new Cold War between the United States and China? And where do you see India fit as a country which sits so close to China and yet has deep and abiding strategic ties with the United States?
No, having experienced the Cold War effects in the past, nobody wants Cold War again in the world. As far as India is concerned, we only should hope that no such thing re-emerges on the world scene, because if it is going to be a reality again, another new Cold War is to begin, remember, it is going to begin in our immediate neighborhood. While the previous Cold War was fought largely in Europe and I would say Pacific Atlantic region. If any other Cold War between China and America begins, it will be in our own neighborhood, which is not good for even our own interests. So nobody wants another Cold War. Having said it, as you rightly pointed out, you said that China is today, putting pressure on Australia, but you also should remember that today countries like Australia are standing up to bullying. Not just countries in Australia, countries in Africa, countries in many other parts of the world. That's why I use the word, there is a massive trust challenge that China faces today. China is better advised to address this challenge first. As far as the situation that is unfolding is concerned, India has to weigh its options carefully. I believe that, like in the last Cold War, we had that so-called NAM, non-aligned movement. When the Soviets and Americans were fighting, the world was divided into two groups. We have created a third group. But NAM by name meant neither here nor there. Now, we have to be charting out a proactive kind of role for us in the unfolding world scenario. That doesn't mean we side with one party or the other, but we have to. Today, a lot of countries, especially in our immediate neighborhood and in the region like Indo-Pacific, look up to India for a proactive role. We should probably be prepared to chart a new course so that we will mobilize countries in our neighborhood to ensure that our neighborhood remains peaceful. It remains, there is an option for prosperity and progress for all the countries. No Cold War clouds will hamper our own development and progress.
Can you elaborate further on the role that you see India play? Because we've seen in the United States, members of the Trump administration come out in India's defense, hit out at China for the aggressive border posture. So very clearly, the United States seems to be batting at this moment, as it were, on India's side.
It is true that the border events indicate or clearly betray a renewed aggression on the Chinese side. I do admit it is a fact. While border clashes are normal, there is a greater aggression in the last incidents in last couple of weeks. For India, as I said, the options, we have maintained good relations with China in the last 5 years. We have had our share of problems. Some are direct problems. Some are created because of probably the intervention of China in certain matters. So we are having difficulties, yet thanks to the mature and visionary leadership of India, Prime Minister Modi, and thanks to proper reciprocation on the side of the Chinese leadership, President Xi Jinping's side, we have been able to manage this relationship quite smoothly in the last 6 years. It involved a lot of hard work, lot of back channel activity, yet we have maintained this relationship. We are not at all looking at a scenario where we both will fight with each other, however much the other countries may want it. Our idea is that if we can create enough, create a kind of a coalition and alliance of countries in the Indo-Pacific region that would come forward to take the responsibility for freedom of navigation, peace in the region, prosperity for all. In all these issues, most importantly, rule-based order. These are the challenges that we face. We have seen countries, that includes China, simply violating the global order, global rules, global norms, not caring for the judgments of international institutions. So a scenario where rule-based order is also coming under severe stress in the region. We should be able to take up those issues on a priority together with many countries in the region. That's what I'm saying. We have to mobilize a number of countries, not one country's responsibility alone. Many countries in the region, whether it is Japan or it is South Korea, it is Singapore, Indonesia, Australia, India, we all have to come together.
Now, two more things have happened which are of concern to me. One is that at China's behest, Nepal seems to be under its new Prime Minister KP Oli, making very dangerous noises against India. Now, one would have imagined with the BJP in power in India, and you've got a country like Nepal, the relations would actually improve, especially given Prime Minister Modi's popularity in the initial days over there. But since the blockade of Nepal, we've actually seen relations go from bad to worse, so much so that the Nepalese parliament is now passing resolutions against us.
The developments in last few weeks in Nepal are definitely very unfortunate. India-Nepal relationship is not just a bilateral relationship between two governments. It's much more deeper, it is much more profound. It's a relationship of civilization, it's a relationship of culture, it's a relationship of people. So at the macro level, nobody can really destroy, damage this relationship. This relationship will remain, it should remain forever. Having said it, we have right now, we do have certain issues to resolve between our two countries. The foreign ministry has come out strongly saying that it appears that the motivation is coming from somewhere else. But I would only say that the Nepalese leadership should look at the India-Nepal relationship not from the short-term political prism, but rather from the long-term civilizational relationship prism, which is going to be of lasting benefit to people of Nepal as well as of course, people of India.
Agree with the Army Chief's suggestion?
The immediate challenge.
Let me ask you a direct question, sir. Do you agree with the Army Chief's suggestion that the moves made by the Nepalese Prime Minister seem to have been done at the behest of Beijing?
Look, there is an issue about the whole issue of Kalapani. It originates on the issue of where does the river Mahakali or Kali, and we call Mahakali, they call it Kali. Kali, where does it originate? On that there is a dispute, but it still baffles everybody. I mean, those who know about this relationship, long relationship, there have been issues between us, but it really baffles all of us to understand why Nepal has gone to the extent of publishing a map showing Indian territories in their country. It's a baffling thing. There probably what the Army Chief has said could be one of the valid reasons for Nepalese stand on that issue. That puts India in a very awkward situation. It becomes a very serious question of sovereignty. Issues can be sorted out through dialogue. And India and Nepal are two countries where dialogue is very easy. We are two peoples with same civilizational and cultural background. So I think that while the situation looks complex, we would be able to overcome it through proactive diplomacy.
Is your government guilty of having botched up relationship with Nepal? From being one of India's closest friends to now saying that the virus coming from India is more dangerous than coming from anywhere else. Nepal seems to have pivoted entirely into the Chinese fold, and questions will be asked whether your government, sir, is guilty of having Nepal slip from India's area of influence.
I don't think that the relationship has been damaged and all that. There are challenges, there are issues. I am not denying that. I mean, for that matter, nobody in the government is denying that. But as I said, this relationship is not just about one leader there and one leader here. It's not about that. It's a much deeper relationship. There have always been, if you look at India-Nepal relationship, Rahul, there have always been sometimes certain ups and downs. It's not that it has always been very smooth. At the government level I'm talking about. So we now see a bad patch, but I am very confident that with the mature leadership on our side under Prime Minister Modi, we will certainly be able to overcome it. As you rightly pointed out, 4 years ago when Prime Minister Modi visited Nepal, I myself was privy to that statement that Prime Minister Oli made, that if Prime Minister Oli has made, that if Prime Minister Modi comes and contests elections in Nepal, he will defeat even me. That was the kind of sentiment that was there 4 years ago.
Well, a lot has changed in those 4 years.
We do see
unfortunately, after the blockade, a lot seems to have changed. So a lot of that goodwill was frittered away, very unfortunately.
I agree that right now there are issues which need to be resolved, but I'm sure through our proactive diplomacy we would be able to overcome.
What about Pakistan? We've seen from the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan a suggestion that there will soon be a false flag terror attack in India, which India will look to blame to Pakistan. It almost seems to suggest that there is something in the works, because we've seen heightened terror activity in Jammu and Kashmir. We're already seeing multiple counterinsurgency operations being carried out by the Indian Army against terrorists acting over there. So it almost seems as if Imran Khan, on behalf of the ISI and the Pak Army, is laying the grounds for some kind of a terror attack which he would later want to blame to India.
Oh yes, undoubtedly. Pakistan's leadership, especially Mr. Imran Khan, is very frustrated, very desperate to revive terrorism and militancy in Kashmir Valley. Let me tell you, Rahul, I closely watch the situation there. I handle the political affairs in that state. After the historic decision on 5th August last year, the opposition had even publicly stated that there would be a bloodbath, a lot of violence would happen, etc., etc. But we all have seen the last 8-9 months of largely peaceful Kashmir Valley. The reason is people of the valley largely are today wanting to see the new life under no 370 regime. They saw the life under 370 regime, they want to see regime under no 370. But that is what is really creating a lot of trouble to Mr. Imran Khan and Pakistan. They had expected that there would be a lot of, a sort of civil war in Kashmir Valley, which they would then exploit, send more militants, etc. That's not happening. Now they are trying to send large number of terrorists from across the borders. Our border security establishment is very alert. We are trying to thwart them. Yet there are varying numbers. I mean, certainly a very high number, I would say. I don't want to create any panic by giving numbers, but certainly big number of terrorists are sought to be pushed into the valley. But luckily for us, you have seen in the last 6 weeks, we have neutralized terrorists in a good number in at least 5-6 major incidents. Our security establishment is alert, and local recruitment remains very low. That is a good sign for us.
On the trade front, we've seen India introduce new regulations which impact foreign investment coming in from China. We've already publicly spoken of how we hope to pull companies that have manufacturing lines in China to come and invest in India. Do you think some of this is also part of the growing tension between India and China? Could the trade face-off be part of the aggression that we're seeing on the border?
We are working towards what Prime Minister has called the Atmanirbhar Bharat. In that, India has to do a lot of work domestically. I will give you one very interesting example. During the lockdown, we thought that we could encourage our Indian manufacturers to produce large number of jean pants. Jeans cloth material is produced by Indian companies, but do you know we could not produce pants because the zips are not manufactured in India, they have to come from China. So this is the kind of dependence we have. So the need of the hour is that India moves towards self-reliance in a big way. So in that sense, yes, even the investments from some of the countries in the neighborhood have to pass through a government route. It's not that they are banned, remember. They all have to pass through the central government route. So that is a precaution that we are taking so that we don't have to depend for zips on China, pant zips on China. So it's not about tensions or anything. It's the policy under Atmanirbhar Bharat that we are taking.
So you've been as candid as you possibly could have been. You've spoken about how China is violating global norms and rules, and how the aggression that we are seeing is quite unprecedented and different from local incursions which keep happening around springtime. We'll leave it over there. Mr. Ram Madhav, key foreign policy voice of the Bharatiya Janata Party, for sharing with us your assessment of the situation currently with China, Nepal and Pakistan. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video.
For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.